In this new scathing piece by Tulsi Gabbard, she calls out the intelligence community for constantly trying to interfere in the United States elections. Let's talk about it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here Tulsi goes again, being dope, doing what dope people do, doing what people with integrity and conviction do when they have a platform. And I gotta say, I'm here for it because Tulsi Gabbard just put out a new article in The Hill that, she lays it all out there. So in response to the intelligence community trying to assert that Russia is somehow trying to help Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard wrote this article, and I must admit it is fire. So let's take a look at it. The article states, reckless claims by anonymous intelligence officials that Russia is helping Senator Bernie Sanders are deeply irresponsible. So was former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg's calculated decision Tuesday to repeat this unsubstantiated accusation on the debate stage in South Carolina. Enough is enough. I'm calling on all presidential candidates to stop playing these dangerous political games and immediately condemn any interference in our elections by out of control intelligence agencies. Oh Lord, baby Jesus. Come on, man. Come on, bro. Best candidate in the history, at least in my history. I'm only 31 years old, but let's be honest, there hasn't been a lot of great candidates out there. But oh my God. Let me repeat that once more again, okay? I am calling, I being Tulsi Gabbard, on all presidential candidates to stop playing these dangerous games and immediately condemn any interference in our elections by out of control intelligence communities, intelligence agencies, excuse me. To be honest with you, I can stop right there. She wouldn't even need to say anymore. But I understand that a lot of people, there are a lot of new people to the process. And so I'm going to let Tulsi elaborate on why this statement is so important. News article, as Tulsi puts it, published last week in the Washington Post, which set off yet another manufactured media firestorm, alleges that the goal of Russia is to trick people into criticizing establishment Democrats. That's the best way to put it. This is a laughably obvious ploy to stifle legitimate criticism and cast aspersions on Americans who are rightly skeptical of the powerful forces exerting control over the primary election process. We are told the aim of Russia is to sow division, but the aim of corporate media and self-serving politicians pushing this narrative is clearly to sow division of their own by generating baseless suspicion against the Sanders campaign. Dropping them. She's dropping bombs. Oh, she's spitting right now. Don't get me started. Hold up. Let's continue. Y'all about to get me hype up in here. It's 10:30 in the morning. I feel like I'm about to jump out and go, I don't know, go march somewhere. I don't know, go march out in front of the Pentagon with the 2 middle fingers in the air. Shout out to Tulsi, man. Okay, let's continue. It's extremely disingenuous for journalists and rival candidates to publicize a news article that merely asserts without presenting any evidence that Russia is helping Bernie Sanders, but provides no information as to what that help allegedly consists of. The American people have the right to know this information in order to put Russia's alleged interference into proper perspective. It is a mystery why the intelligence community would want to hide these details from us. Instead, they are relying on highly dubious and vague insinuations filtered through their preferred media outlets, which seem designed to create panic rather than actually inform the public about a genuine threat. Oh my God. Why is she going in right now? Oh man. Okay, let's continue. I'm sorry, y'all. It's just, listen. Whew. I'm ready. I need a President Gabbard. All this does is undermine, hell, but I'm okay with a Congresswoman Gabbard at this very moment using her platform as a Congresswoman, as a former member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, as a current member of the Armed Services Committee, as a former member of the Council of Foreign Affairs, Council of Foreign Relations, as a major, taking her expertise, her experience, and the gravitas she has with those type of qualifications to sit down and write this article that says the obvious, but it's rarely put out in mainstream publications like this with somebody with credentials to back it. So she goes on to say that all this does is undermine voters' trust in our elections, which is what we are constantly told the goal. It's what we are constantly told is the goal of Russia. She says if the CIA, FBI, or any other intelligence agency is going to tell voters that Russians are interfering in this election to help certain candidates or simply sow discord, then they need to immediately provide us with the details of exactly what they're alleging. Otherwise, all they're doing is fomenting a sense of powerlessness and paranoia in the voting public, which could suppress engagement in the electoral process. And at least, according to the anonymous official speaking menacingly to the media, that is precisely what Russia wants, quote unquote. If our political leaders and those in the media were really concerned with protecting the integrity of our elections from outside manipulation instead of just making money from manufactured hysteria, they would presumably devote more coverage to proposals to institute backup paper ballots, which would ensure that no malicious actors can ever alter our votes or hack into our election infrastructure. The bill I introduced last year, the Security America's Elections Act, nice bill drop, Tulsi, does exactly that. But the media has never shown much interest because it would not generate the so-called bombshell headline they so desperately crave. Interestingly enough, it actually would it would draw bombshell headlines because remember, they've been trying to attack Mitch McConnell for not pushing Amy Klobuchar's nonsensical election integrity bill. So I think that she might have it a little bit wrong there. It would generate the headlines, but the problem is then the media would be forced to cover it every step of the way. Then Democrats would be held accountable for not voting for the Security America's Elections Act. Then you would have to give Tulsi Gabbard credit. You know, the person that y'all say is working with Russia, you would have to give her credit for actually being the only one to introduce legislation to ensure that no one, no power, foreign or domestic, can interfere with our elections. Then you have to give her credit. I know y'all don't want to give Tulsi credit. I know how the world feels about giving Tulsi Gabbard credit. God forbid we give a young woman of color and a sitting congresswoman credit for all the incredible work she does. That just wouldn't really be the American way, would it? Got to give a white guy credit or a white woman credit first. We ain't gonna get into that. I'm gonna let Tulsi have her moment right now. I ain't gonna steal it from her. Let's continue. All right. The FBI, CIA, or any other intelligence agency should immediately stop smearing presidential candidates with innuendo and vague evidence-free assertions. That is antithetical to their role in the free democracy. The American people cannot have faith in our intelligence agencies if they are pushing an agenda to harm candidates they dislike. Any attempts to keep the American people quiet with the threat that if they dare criticize the Democratic Party establishment, that they will be labeled a hostile foreign agent are unacceptable and disgraceful. This new McCarthyism must be renounced by every presidential candidate. Otherwise, we must conclude they lack the foresight and the integrity required to lead our country. If candidates are too afraid to stand up to those who would suppress the voices of the American people with McCarthyist smears, they are not real leaders. They are just power-hungry, self-serving politicians whose goal is to act as president rather than actually defend the freedoms enshrined in our Constitution. Mic drop. Oh my God. Oh, no, you didn't, Tulsi. Don't be. She's spitting right now. Oh, she's spitting, y'all. She's spitting. Okay, look, let me go ahead and get to the super chat. I might not have to get to because she's spitting right now. Tulsi and Nina are everything feminists say they want women to be in the 21st century, and they still smear them at 100 miles per hour. It's because they're the wrong shade. Yeah, largely because of that. Absolutely. And not only are they the quote unquote wrong shade, but they also refuse to capitulate like many people who are our shade are forced to do if they want to survive in this corporatist patriarchal world. Both, by the way, both Nina and Tulsi have managed to be successful by standing out on their own too, and that's impressive to me. And that's also why people who have had to sacrifice their integrity or their values to get where they're at, it bothers them. So yeah. Yeah, let's go ahead and continue. Whew. I'm not even gonna read all of it, but I just want to read some of the key parts that I liked. This part I really like too. She says, if Sanders is the Democratic nominee, the corporate media will do everything they can to turn the general election into a contest of who is going to be tougher on Russia. Bro, Tulsi got it. Tulsi got it. She understands. How is it that Tulsi can have so much foresight on our foreign policy, on how the media will react, can be the only one with the balls to call out Hillary Clinton? The only one who can figure out that the media was lying about the chemical weapons being dropped in Syria. The only one to predict almost with exact, with exact accuracy. It was scary. Tulsi was like, no, Trump's going to do everything he can to lie and escalate tensions with Iran. I'm not going to believe anything he says whatsoever. And that's exactly what he ended up doing. Like lying about everything. And yet people want to pretend like she isn't top two. You know, obviously for me, she's my number one. But the distance between the greatness of a Bernie Sanders and the greatness of a Tulsi, for anybody, if you are a legitimate, objective thinker, it's not even close. It is close. It's not. When I say it's not even close, I'm saying should be zero distance, and that shouldn't even be a second thought in your mind. If you have a personal preference, your personal preference is probably based off of something you're personally going through in your life and what you personally value more. And that, for the most part, is okay, right? Where every candidate has to go get our votes. But when people feel like they have to lie and pretend like Tulsi ain't the shit, I don't know how to say it, but if you try and pretend like Tulsi, the snowboarding, MMA fighting, intelligence community calling out ass, election integrity fighting for ass, Congresswoman CFR ass, been to war and back ass, as a medic, like been in the trenches and been an officer, used to didn't like gay people like a lot of people, but then I evolved and my father came along with me because I'm that goddamn influential. Went to the DNC, gave them 2 middle fingers with Bernie Sanders standing right behind me, called out Hillary Clinton when y'all motherfuckers didn't want to, but we're gonna pretend that Tulsi ain't the shit? Come on, bruh. Tulsi a real life ass superhero, dog. She a real life ass superhero. And y'all out here, I mean, she's alright. You know, I like Tulsi, but I just have some issues with her. Whatever the hell your issues are with her, I don't even care. Because they're stupid. Your issues with Tulsi are stupid. They're stupid. They are childish. They're because it's like, okay, why do I not get that same qualification with Bernie? I really like Bernie. I have my issues with him, but I really like him. Yeah, I could say that about everybody I really like. I really like a John Mubaraka, but I have some of my issues with. Actually, I can't lie. I can't say that about Jill. I have like 0 issues with Jill. Jill Stein is amazing. Her evolution was like non-existent. She didn't need to evolve. She's pretty much been right all the time. So, and she has the same type of foresight, which probably why I have so much respect for Tulsi, because she has the same type of foresight that Jill Stein has. I want to get some of these super chats. Remind Trump voters to vote Tulsi in South Carolina primary to give Tulsi a timely boost. It's an open primary. They're free to vote for Trump in the general. They've actually been they've been spreading that message. Thanks for that. Thanks again, Sparky. Trump doesn't need primary voters. He should break it off in the establishment. Actually, I think Nevada just suspended their caucus. I'm not sure if South Carolina suspending their Republican primary, but they're basically handing it to Trump at this point, just because he's just dismantling everybody. Now, the last part goes on to say that this tactic is necessary to propagandize the tactic of forcing Sanders to say who's going to be tougher on Russia between him and Trump. She said that this tactic is necessary to propagandize the American people into shelling over their hard-earned tax dollars to the Pentagon fund, to fund the highly lucrative nuclear arms race that the military-industrial complex craves. In the most recent appropriations bill last year, the Pentagon was handed $738 billion, which includes a blank check for dangerous new nuclear warheads and destabilizing missile systems that increase the likelihood of catastrophic war with Russia. The question facing any potential Democratic nominee is this: am I going to allow myself to be manipulated and forced into a corner by overreaching intelligence agencies and the corporate media, where in order for me to win the presidency, I'm going to have to do what I know is not in the interest of the American people and world peace? Or will I stand up to the corrupt neocon and neoliberal establishment, condemn their lies and smears, and act with the integrity and foresight necessary to forge a rational policy that will serve all of our interests? The problem with President Trump is that he talks tough against the media and the intelligence agencies, but he was not strong enough to stand up to their pressure. He was cowed into trying to prove that he is not a puppet of Russia. And as a consequence, he has brought us closer and closer to nuclear war. The Democratic nominee cannot make the same mistakes. Our country and the world are depending on it. Y'all better stop playing with my president. Stop playing with her, bro. Thank you, Sparky, for the super chat. Trump supporters like Tulsi's non-interventionist policy. If they vote Tulsi, it'll help Trump to ignore warmongers Pompeo, Hospital, and L.A. Abrams. I agree, 100%. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, like I said, she dropped the mic. I mean, she could have stopped like 4 times in that article, and it would have been perfect. But look. When people say, why is Tulsi Gabbard still in the race? Well, one, for some reason, don't ask me why, couldn't tell you how. I'm like legitimately couldn't even explain to you, except for, from my understanding, why I think she's still rising in the polls, as people like Klobuchar are falling, as people like Steyer are falling. Tulsi actually just passed Klobuchar in South Carolina's polling. I don't know how she's continuing to hit her fundraising goals. By the way, pretty sure this warrants a money bomb. Go make that happen. Tulsi2020.com. When you consider the fact she's still hitting her goals, she hasn't performed. Well, she wasn't campaigning in Nevada, so that's okay. But she didn't perform as well as she would have liked to in New Hampshire. Granted, the jury is still out there, because in those 3 counties where they use election integrity issues, in my opinion, disqualifiers, if you will, by making sure that the AccuVote machines that are not used anywhere else in the country because of how vulnerable they are, the verdict is still out, because the exit polling was just so disparate that it's hard for me to take those results seriously. But unfortunately, it kept Tulsi just out of the margin where she could challenge those votes. But hey, let's be honest, Yang got much more money and had much more television time, FaceTime, than Tulsi did, without being smeared anywhere near as much as Tulsi was. Steyer has billions and outspends Tulsi by tens of millions of dollars, not only nationally, but on a state-to-state basis as well. And yet, here we are. Tulsi is 10 delegates behind, second place? I think she's 10. No. She's 10 delegates behind third place. With, once again, only way she has to go from here is up. And for me, when people ask, well, why are you supporting Tulsi so fervently? Why won't you just switch to exclusively supporting Sanders, or push Tulsi what is her jumping on Sanders' stage and saying the same thing right now, like not later, but at this very moment? What does that do for her in the future? What does that do for the potentiality for a nuclear arms race right now? When she gets on the debate stage, when she gets on that stage as a Sanders supporter, if she ever does, if she chooses to, which it would be her choice, she will be reserved to speak about Bernie Sanders and his campaign. She would be able to speak about Iraq, not tell the truth about Syria. She'll be able to talk about Donald Trump, and probably to a degree, largely the Democratic establishment, but she wouldn't be able to talk about the fact that this Russiagate nonsense is bullshit. She could talk about Bernie's policies, but she couldn't talk about her Securing America's Elections Act. She could talk about, a green new century, or new green century, as she likes to call it, but she wouldn't be able to talk about the All Fossil Fuels Act. She wouldn't be able to brag, and I think she needs to brag more often about all the transformational legislation she's introduced, her transformational philosophy, her departure from foreign policy orthodoxy in Washington, in Washington D.C. and really in all the Western empire hegemons across the world, right? She departs from all of them. She wouldn't be able to fully be Tulsi Gabbard. And I know this because even Nina has to hold back to a degree. Even Bree has to hold back to a degree. Killer Mike, Cornel West, they all have to hold back to a degree. And I know because as a surrogate for Tulsi, whenever I'm having to introduce her, I can't say everything I want to say at the time. Now, granted, as far as presidential candidates go, between her and Jill Stein, who and once upon a time when I was a surrogate for Bernie, I would say between her and Jill Stein that I was able to say 98% of what I wanted to say. The other 2% involved a lot of F-bombs, and I didn't want to embarrass them like that. But in all seriousness, this is bigger. This is bigger than 2020, and Tulsi seems to be the only one who understands that. And Tulsi supporters seem to be the only ones who understand. Why won't she drop out now? Why? For your instant gratification? So you can just say, "Ha, look, we consolidated everybody. They're all ours now." At the end of the day, Bernie, objectively speaking, has the best chance to win the nomination. Unless Tulsi starts doing, now if she starts doing something insane, like she pulls out 20% or 15% in South Carolina and then ends up going forward and pulling out another 15 or 20% in another state where y'all like, what the hell? And y'all want to start arguing with us and making that, having that discussion, it might be a little bit easier to entertain it. But right now, it seems like there are a bunch of trolls who are asking Tulsi to drop out so she doesn't keep dropping truth bombs like this. Because what she said here, I don't care who you support, is factually speaking. She's saying, hold up, I'm gonna reread what she said about the presidential candidates. The question facing any presidential Democratic nominee is this: am I going to allow myself to be manipulated and forced into a corner by overreaching intelligence agencies and the corporate media, where in order for me to win the presidency, I'm going to have to do what I know is not in the interest of the American people and world peace? Or will I stand up to the corrupt neocon and neoliberal establishment, condemn their lies and smears, and act with integrity and foresight necessary to forge a rational policy that will serve U.S. interests? I mean, she also says that it must be renounced, right? This McCarthyism must be renounced by every single presidential candidate. Otherwise, we must conclude they lack the foresight and the integrity required to lead our country. I don't give a damn who your choice is. That statement is fact. I don't care if your choice is Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg. I don't care if it's these nuts. Okay? Shout out to D's Nuts. He ran an excellent campaign in 2016. Sorry he had to finish out so early, but hey, next time, call me up, bro. I'll be your strategy guy. So, but in all seriousness, that statement is factual. Call it out. Bernie is beginning to get there. He is beginning to echo some of Tulsi's rhetoric, but because he does not understand exactly Tulsi's philosophy, which is representative largely of the anti-war, the legitimate anti-war left, not the YouTube camera phone using anti-war left, where they think if they say we hate war on YouTube and have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, that makes them anti-war. No. You have to understand the philosophy. Barbara Lee is, for her faults and her shortcomings, which is, they're very few, by the way. But for those few faults and shortcomings she has, you can never question her anti-war rhetoric, her anti-war philosophy, how she comes to the conclusion she's come to, where Bernie was even forced to admit on the debate stage. Barbara Lee was ahead of the game and was the only one who got the Afghanistan situation right, even more so than Dennis Kucinich. And can you blame her I can't really blame even Dennis Kucinich, because the world was convinced and lied to and told that the people that attacked us were in this very specific place, and we went in and did a blitzkrieg instead of a special forces operation, which is what it should have been. Now, granted, that operation should have started out in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan rather than Afghanistan, but that's a different discussion for a different day. My point is, you have to understand the anti-war philosophy. You can't get Lula right, okay, and understand that Bolsonaro is a right-wing extremist. Then get Evo Morales right, understanding that this militant puppet government are right-wing extremists. But then the man that both Lula and Evo Morales endorse in Maduro, you can't get that one right. That doesn't make any sense. How do you get Maduro wrong, but Evo Morales and Lula right? And it's because you're going whatever the progressive wind is blowing. And then Lula, I know, endorsed Bernie. I can't remember if Evo Morales endorsed Bernie as well, but he did say some glowing words. So that seems to be the only, what? So if they say something nice about you, then you like them? You can't do that. That's not cool. When people say, why do I think that Bernie needs Tulsi to be VP? For this. Nina would be a great VP for other reasons, mostly being domestic. But the thing is, if you understood their actual resumes, if you actually took the time to look up their resumes, because most people do not. Most people, what do? I don't want to insult anybody, because I understand most people are arguing in good faith, and they really like Nina. But the only reason they really like Nina is because she's loyal to Bernie, and she mostly on the campaign trail echoes Bernie. Also, I mean, she has a great heart. She advocates for everybody. She's the only black woman that has a prominent platform that actually advocates for the rights of black men specifically. I mean, she obviously talks about how black women are treated by the Democratic Party and Republican parties respectively, but black men have our own issues in politics and in the professional world, where we are demonized, we are villainized, we are viewed as predators, and we're portrayed in a certain manner and suppressed and oppressed in ways that are oftentimes not discussed. And Nina is one of the only ones, if not the only one, at least in that position, who has been brave enough to say this, because nobody else will. It's not a popular sentiment to discuss. It's like kind of how good single dads get screwed over by Southern style court systems that automatically award, rights to the mother, regardless of the situation, unless there's some extreme circumstance. Like, these are things that people don't like to discuss, but Nina's out there fighting for everybody to be treated the correct way, not just the popular demographic at the time. So that's like, Nina has a great heart. Nina's loyal to Bernie, but Nina's qualifications best suits her to be the head of the DNC. And if you understand, that's probably more important than both the president and the vice president right now. Because last time I checked, who nominated all these nonsensical Hillary Clinton shills for the Rules and Bylaws Committee? That was Tom Perez, right? Howard Dean was the one who took the superdelegates, or at least convinced the superdelegates in 2008 to switch from Hillary Clinton to Barack Obama. Howard Dean encouraged a fair election because he knew what was on the horizon, because he also understands how Hillary Clinton and her people operate. So he got her to rein in and say, look, yo, come on, bro. Come on. Like, let's make a deal here, because it's going to get ugly, and Hillary, it's not going to be pretty for you. Now, granted, Hillary Clinton didn't come to her senses. She didn't come to her senses. She still thought that, even though Barack Obama literally beat her well before the convention, not like that fake presumptive nominee nonsense that happened in 2016. I mean, like, Barack Obama had over 50% of the delegates, and it wasn't even close before the convention, like a month or two before the convention. So, but Howard Dean made it so that those superdelegates that were originally going to vote for Hillary, which would have still put her over the top, they switched over to Barack Obama, or they just stayed out. So that's the kind of power that DNC chair people have. We saw what Debbie Wasserman Schultz did. 6 debates. What? Bro, we've had since what, June, at least one, no, May, I believe, at least one debate every month. And we're now inching on what, 2 debates a month? And we'll be seeing that going forward pretty much until July. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama had over 21 debates, I believe, which is looking like we're on pace to see something similar to that. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz being in power was what allowed Bernie to be suppressed the first time. Right? Tom Perez in power is what allowed these rules and bylaws committees to be what they are. The reason that superdelegates are still in play is because we don't have control over what? The DNC. So Nina has already shown that she can run an organization in our revolution so that they're extremely successful, so that their advocacy reflects what the people are. You know, they don't accept corporate donations. They don't accept corporate donations. They're people power. So whenever it's people power, like to the degree that it is, who are they going to be adherent to? And yeah, there are some moles in our revolution. Yeah, there are some bad chapters. Yeah, there are some, or they're more so now because she's not there. But before Nina took over, our revolution was struggling a bit. After, not only just financially, but with their identity. After that, they're still having some issues on the ground I'm not going to get into. But Nina being there is what pulled our revolution together. Nina was training people in DC to run for office and to be staff. Nina understands the plays on the field. She understands personalities, and she has this gift of discernment to see who's an ally and who is not. Once again, I feel like I don't have to tell people. Nina was what, between her and Bree, that was it. As far as the heads of Bernie's campaign, when it came to calling out Warren, it was Nina and Bree were the only ones who were not playing that whole Warren for VP. They would be so great. Warren for VP. Although I do agree, somebody brought up the point that maybe Ro Khanna and David Sirota and some other people who are at least part of the Bernie campaign were pushing that idea because they were like, the sooner we get out Warren, the better. At least that was their sentiment about David Sirota, which is a good argument to make because they're looking out for the best interest, right? And the sooner you get out Warren, the better. You make her a non-factor by being nice to her and then getting her to drop out. They feel like they can go from Bernie to Warren and but at least guarantee a Bernie Sanders presidency. I don't agree with that tactic if that was a tactic, but I could see that. But either way, Nina and Bree were the only ones not playing that shit. Right? They've tried everything they could to take out Nina and waver her integrity. They can't do it. So that would, if you understood Nina's resume and what she's already achieved, you would know that she's an organizer. She is a leader of people. And she's a leader of organizers, right? Not just a leader of followers looking for help, but a leader of actual organizers. That would make her best suited for the DNC chairwoman position. Could you imagine what we could get done with the first anti-establishment Black woman, pro-Bernie, progressive anti-establishment, pro-Tulsi DNC chair? Like it would never be the same. It would literally never be the same. Now, with Tulsi, I feel the same way about the VP. Her unique qualifications best suit her to be president or vice president. If we're assuming Bernie has a nomination, then vice president would be not, like, people keep saying secretary of state, and like, I get it. People are like literally just regurgitating something they've seen online. Oh, well, I think she'll be great secretary of state. Great, because foreign policy, great secretary of state, foreign policy. Once again, it's kind of short-sighted. Be honest with you, it's a little bit short-sighted. Although I get it, some people are, assuming that, and they're being well-meaning, but they're assuming that Secretary of State has more influence over foreign policy than the Vice President. That's not true. Hillary Clinton and Vice President Biden oftentimes worked in tandem with each other. Having Tulsi as VP would give her greater influence over who does become the Secretary of State. But just for strategic reasons, it would be stupid to have her as Secretary of State, because God forbid the worst happens to Bernie. God forbid that happens, but this is the reality we live in. We live in the United States, right? God forbid the worst happens, who's next in line? A neoliberal, perhaps? But what would happen to Tulsi then? How many terms do you think Tulsi would be with Bernie as Secretary of State if a neoliberal was able to take his spot? Think about that. We have to think beyond these, I don't know what you would call them, but I guess these conventional visceral responses based off of something you kind of understand at the most basic level. But we have to see, like, the next 16 years are so important. And the next 16 years will be governed largely by the decisions that we make in 2020. Sparky, my sister-in-law is white. She gets 100% of her news off Facebook and MSDNC. That's why Tulsi's support isn't as strong in that demographic. Yeah, also, she's just being silenced, right? Bernie's support wasn't that strong in 2016 amongst that demographic. Unless they were really, really young white students. But remember, he had like the most diverse demographic in 2016, but he was struggling amongst older black voters, which made sense. People didn't know who he was. So Tulsi is dealing with that somewhat too. But like I said, there's no way you sit through an entire Tulsi Gabbard interview and decide, hey, I hate this woman. There's no way. Karen, see, that's what I was actually going to get at. That's what I'm saying. So like, if you get a Tulsi Gabbard as vice president, you get a Dennis Kucinich as Secretary of State at Tulsi's side, because vice president still has domestic duties. Tulsi is going to want someone that she can trust to replace her with foreign policy duties, because the vice president, which I guess people forget, largely handles foreign policy matters, because the president has to be here. If he has legislation, revolutionary legislation especially, on the ground, he needs to see that through. Vice president may need to be here in the Senate to help push it. Niko, team up with Kyle to get Tulsi as VP, please. Kyle has already expressed to me that he wants Tulsi or Nina as VP. I can't remember which way he's leaning, but as the time, my goal right now is to help Tulsi get as close as she can to the nomination. Obviously, we got to deal with superdelegates and delegates, but hell, people, these candidates, believe it or not, they're running out of money. Warren's running out. They're broke. Warren is broke. She's probably next to drop out. Warren is probably next. If Warren drops out, there is one of two things that can happen, honestly. A lot of that support could end up at Bernie's feet. Weirdly enough, there are also a lot of Warren supporters who do like Tulsi. Not really sure how that comes to be, but I guess they see Warren as a policy wonk and also see Tulsi as one too, even though Tulsi actually is a policy wonk. If you've ever, I don't know, maybe just read this latest article that she's written, but there is a good chance that if Warren drops out, Bernie will suck up a lot of her support, or they will be up for the taking. But as far as Tulsi's prospects go, if Warren drops out, that's just more reason for her to stay in. Because as Warren drops out and the establishment begins to consolidate, they'll be going full speed ahead at Bernie Sanders delegates. And he has to overwin. He has to overwin and force them to concede. And not only that, but once again, which is the point I was trying to make in the beginning of January 2019, if he wants to overwin, you also need the threat of allies teaming up, like Warren and Bloomberg have not been shy about admitting, yeah, we're basically trying to make Bernie stall out before the convention. So wouldn't it be nice to have allies that had delegates right now, people? Wouldn't that be nice? Sparky, Tulsi should pick Kucinich as her running mate. Nah, so I wouldn't pick Kucinich as my running mate if I was Tulsi. And the reason why is because Kucinich is not that charismatic. He's just not. He would be a great debater though, but like realistically, the most you need not only a ticket with people you can trust, but you need a ticket where like you're just unstoppable, and it'll give you a mandate like we've never seen before. If you think that FDR and Henry Wallace and FDR ticket was unstoppable, and it was literally for 4 terms. Now 3, but you know how the 4th one went. But Henry Wallace and FDR ticket was unstoppable, because Henry Wallace was basically what people see Tulsi Gabbard as today, but with more experience, believe it or not. And then of course FDR is what a lot of people view Bernie Sanders as. So whatever capacity they end up with, you know, on the ticket, it has to be Bernie, Tulsi, Tulsi, Bernie. You need the movement plus the clairvoyance. FDR had that with Henry Wallace. FDR had the movement. Henry Wallace had the integrity and the clairvoyance. FDR was not perfect, but Henry Wallace kept FDR from falling too much astray. FDR obviously was still better than most. Still a little bit racist, but you know, luckily we don't have to worry about that with Bernie. Natalie, you're a delegate for Tulsi in California. Congratulations. I did not know that. Congratulations. That's dope. Natalie out here putting in work, y'all. Thank you, Natalie, for constantly putting in work for Tulsi. I know you're going through your own things, and yet you're still out here fighting the good fight. So I appreciate it. And I'm absolutely positive Tulsi does as well, which is why I'm sure she called you. So, but I do want to end on this. It says a lot to me. It says a hell of a lot to me that Tulsi is still defending Bernie in ways that Bernie won't even defend himself. And as you still have people like pushing Warren, pretending that Warren is even a progressive, let alone a viable candidate, but pretending she's a progressive, pretending that somehow picking Warren as VP would lead to a victory, pretending that Warren and Tulsi are even in the same league. It's laughable. I don't even think that it's like these people have never had loyalty in their lives based, or they don't believe in loyalty for the sake of loyalty, right? Like my best friend, I'm loyal to him to a fault. Now, I hold him accountable and I call him out, but that's going to be after. I'm gonna figure that out after my loyalty is necessary, because he's earned that for whatever reason between Bernie and Tulsi and their personal relationship. I mean, she did co-found the Sanders Institute with him. You know, they spearheaded Medicare for All together in 2016, raised against Hillary Clinton's war machine in 2016. Nina Turner came out and campaigned for Tulsi in Hawaii, like 2017, 2018. Like they clearly have a relationship where Tulsi feels like, regardless of my campaign, clearly, because she clearly felt the same way in 2016 as well, but regardless of her campaign, regardless of her personal political goals, defending Bernie was more important to her, and is more important to her than being potentially hurt by defending Bernie. She doesn't care about that. Her supporters don't even like it sometimes when she defends Bernie. Obviously, I'm not one of those supporters, but there are a lot of her supporters who are independent or center-right type of independent that don't like it when she defends Bernie. But as a person who has experienced Tulsi's loyalty after being smeared, I can tell you that the fact that she's going to defend Bernie regardless of whether or not you or I like it says a lot about her. And anyone pretending as if Tulsi's some type of selfish human being, I don't know. You gotta get your life together. It seems like you've never ever experienced loyalty for the sake of loyalty. Like you feel like the only time people can be loyal to you is if they want something from you. And there are a lot of people in the world who have had those experiences almost exclusively for their entire lives. But I can tell you this, that is not Tulsi Gabbard. It's not Tulsi Gabbard. It's just who she is, for better or for worse. And when you have a relationship in Tulsi and Bernie and Nina, of course, that has fruitized out of a movement like the one that was started in 2015, you don't pretend like that we should split that up. You don't split that up. Tulsi has her faults, Bernie has his faults, Nina has her faults. But let's not pretend that they're not allies. I'm not saying don't hold people accountable, right? Bernie absolutely should speak up on his own behalf as far as Russiagate is concerned. But that doesn't mean I'm going to pretend like he and Tulsi are not allies. Like, I don't like the fact that people attack Nina saying she doesn't defend Tulsi enough. Nina has, out of all the public figures involved in this race, Nina, I mean, obviously, like, I'm not included, I'm a surrogate for her, but now anyway, but Nina has stood up for Tulsi more than anybody else out of all the public figures involved. Come on, bro. Whatever, that whole qualification thing that y'all do, I like Tulsi, but she should drop out. But no. Nina supports Tulsi. Tulsi supports Nina. Tulsi supports Bernie. Bernie supports Tulsi. And that's according to Tulsi in her tweet, remember. If Bernie made the call to Tulsi today to fold, where he would say, look, please be the vice president. This is what you'll have control over. You'll have control of our entire foreign policy. We can work together on domestic. But if you want control over the foreign policy, and look, let's go do this. I can tell you that Nina would mow it over, or Tulsi would mow it over with some guarantees from Bernie Sanders. It would be a done deal. Right? But that's not what's happened yet, clearly. So stop telling her to drop out. You need someone who can take the heat that Bernie either can't afford to take, doesn't want to take, or is scared to take. You need someone to throw shots that Bernie doesn't want to throw. You need someone for Bernie to kind of look to, if you will. You need someone that he can trust. Because in this race, there is no one else he can trust. In his staff, there are barely people he can trust. And that just comes with being at the top like he is. Sparky, supporting Russia hoax won't attract Trump voters. You're 100% correct. But nominating Tulsi as your VP 4 months in advance absolutely will. That's also the other thing. For Bernie to get the vice president that he wants, he needs to nominate that VP like 2 days ago. Like, at least tell people who you're leaning towards, because the vice presidential situation is about to be, y'all think the nomination is going to be a bitch? Nah, bro. That vice presidential nomination is what's about to flip that. Ooh, it's going to be hell. That is going to be where people are flipping out, because you're going to realize, even the Sanders supporters are going to realize, hold on, this, if it isn't a Tulsi Gabbard, a Nina Turner, Barbara Lee, perhaps, like, this isn't Bernie's pick. Who did this? Superdelegates. And what that does, ladies and gentlemen, is that takes our future away from us. It gives us 4 to 8 years of Bernie Sanders, but then immediately takes our future away from us. And we're going to be forced to restart, like what happened with Truman and FDR. So, Chen Kong. Niko, what's up with the Hill interview you promised months ago? It's like they're totally siding with Sam Cedar. Well, no, Crystal has always been close with Sam Cedar and Michael Brooks. So it wasn't Crystal who invited me on. So it was Sagar who actually invited me on. But I just, to be honest with you, I haven't followed up with them. I just got married, so I haven't done interviews with them. My first interview was with big tall little talk with Israel yesterday. So I just literally haven't had time to. They like to plan their interviews, generally about a week, 3 to 4 days in advance, and I literally haven't had 3 or 4 days to give. So like I can't tell what's going to happen in 3 or 4 days. I'm going to California. When I get back from California, I don't know where I'll be. I might be on the campaign trail with Tulsi at that point. Then after that, I have to go to New York. And then I gotta take care of everything. It sucks that we haven't been able to communicate. But it is what it is. I'm not stressing about it. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, that's why I have my own network. But I do appreciate what Sagar and Crystal are doing over there. But yeah, so I think that's gonna be it. But yeah, I don't want Tulsi to drop out. I don't want her to drop out. She's too damn good, bro. She's too good, and she sees what I would see, which is this election, the message, the conversations that we're having. It's more than 2020, bro. It's more than 2020. It's about reflecting on our history, both recent and beyond, and crafting our conversations in the future. There's nobody else best equipped to do that going forward. Bernie is he's finishing up his legacy. Hopefully it ends with a bang. I would love that for him, right? Tulsi is just getting started. But you have people like AOC, for example. You have people like Rokana, another example. You have people that are trying to steal this away from her. And by stealing it away from her, they're stealing it away from us. I don't care what rhetoric you loosely use when it's convenient and non-divisive in 2020. What I care about, for me, right, how I try and measure your integrity, your agenda, which is some of it's presumption, some of it's assumption, and a lot of it is fact-based. But how I personally try to measure is, where the hell was you at in 2015? Where the hell were you at in 2015 when we had everything to lose, basically nothing to gain? A lot of us took permanent hits. Permanent. The moment I became a prominent, Bernie bro, quote unquote, in 2016, and they knew that I meant that shit, not like Simone Sanders. But when they knew I meant that, that was it for me. There were no more consulting jobs. I'm pretty sure that I even had internships that I was told to apply to, right? I was asked to be part of them before I started working with Bernie. The moment that they found out, because I was not shy about putting that shit on my resume, because I needed people to know what I was about. Those internships where all of a sudden they're like, we decided to move on to, people took hits, bro. Their jobs, their security, their stability, their social lives. And so for me to take you seriously in 2020 as someone who is one of the ones who wants to bring this movement forward, I got to know where the hell you was at in 2015. I'm not saying you can't change, but for me to take you as one of the future leaders, to even be close to Tulsi, you got to start your time in 2015, which leaves one person, Nina, as far as politicians are concerned. That leaves Nina. And it's funny because basically Tulsi and Nina are the ones who, they trust each other more than they trust any of the other politicians out there. And there's a reason for that. They know what they're up against. And Tulsi is thinking about 2024, 2028, 2032, 2036. She's thinking about the future. That's what Tulsi's candidacy is about. Even if she won, it would have still been about the future. Even if Bernie wins, her candidacy is still about the future. Even in 2024, if she runs because Bernie decides he wants to pass the torch, it's still about 2028. It's about helping people understand these issues going forward by just simply telling the truth. And most importantly, she don't got no quit in her. All the chips down, everything happening to her, all the way she's been smeared, the way the people around her have been smeared, myself included. I've been smeared by neoliberals. I've been smeared by progressives. My team, some of whom are Bernie supporters, they've been smeared by progressives for supporting a message of love and aloha. Didn't know that was so divisive. But I guess in a world where, clicks are generated by hate titles and drama, that the idea of leading with love and aloha is a divisive and contentious philosophy, huh? But she's still fighting. She's still here. There ain't no quit in her. Y'all gonna have to drag her ass out. And that's the type of person that I want at the negotiating table for me, overseas, in Congress, and wherever she may fight after 2020. And I feel like that should be something that everybody wants in a presidential candidate. This isn't like, Rocky De La Fuente. Rocky, he just be out there. He don't be campaigning. But Tulsi's out here really campaigning, really has a van, really hitting her fundraising goals, really rising in the polls, really out here fighting every single day. So, if you want that fight to continue, I strongly urge for you, go donate $5, $10, $15, $20 to Tulsi right now. Go do so. Because we know what she's going to use it for. She going to use it to keep telling the truth. She going to use it to keep fighting. And don't we all like a fighter? I know Elizabeth Warren's holding it down on the fighter front, but hey, Tulsi's a fighter too. With that being said, I am going to California and New York City. I just raised enough to get the ticket for California. Now we're just raising the rest of the money to go to New York. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit more expensive of a venture because in LA, I could stay with Paz and Fiorella, and I'll make them chauffeur me around. Shout out to Combo Couch. But in New York, it is not going to be that easy. Got to get a room in expensive ass Brooklyn. We have to, I got to try to get the team out there, which is also not going to be a hassle because there's 3 of them. Gotta get the plane ticket or pay for gas. Still trying to figure out which route we're going to go there. And we're going to be out there for a few days. So you're talking about $300 a night, potentially $200, $300 a night, just because of how expensive New York is in the time period that we're going in. April is middle of spring break. So, but still looking forward to it. We are actually over halfway to our goal. And if you want to contribute, any amount helps. You can go to the description. The link is there. Also, it'll be in the comment section too. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into that live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Shout out to Tulsi for that absolutely brilliant article. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Of course, if YouTube is giving you trouble, as it always does, you can download the Rockfin app and follow us there. Also, if you want to continue to help our show grow, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon and donate as little as $1. Really, anything helps. Other than that, always remember, people, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.